Thanks for coming out. I thought it was a good opportunity here with the bye week and the trade deadline yesterday, just to really talk about, the roster right now, take you into a little bit of the insight in terms of decisions we've made, and just about the team in general. And right now, the results aren't good enough right now, and we understand that. And we understand the frustration, with the fan base. And we know that we have to earn back the trust of this fan base. One of the things that was, really appealing to me when I took this job was the passion that this fan base has. Coming in here as an opposing team, you could feel that passion, that it meant something to the community, to families here. And I always said, if I'm going to go somewhere, I want to make it impactful. And it's great to be in a place where people care about the team. And I've been here, close to a year now. I have young kids, they're in school. I've got to meet a lot of people in the community. And I feel their passion and I feel their frustration right now. And but we are doing everything possible right now to get this right and to fix it. And we will. I believe we will at the end of the day. And with all the negativity that comes along with losing, it's hard to see any positive signs. But there are positive signs. I want to really thank the coaches right now and the players for their work ethic every day and energy that they come in with every day to get better here, despite the losing. I've been around places where, we're having a tough season like this, and it's hard to come to work, and I don't feel that here. And I thank the coaches. Let's be real. This is a tough situation for them right now. They moved their families here. They want to come here to win. And, we haven't done that yet. And, but they come to work every day, and their willingness to work with younger players here to develop them, and I think they have developed them. I want to highlight the rookie class that we have. I think it's a special class. I really do. And not just because I was a GM who picked these players, but I do feel like it's a special class, and it's a class that we can build upon. They represent everything that we want in a Titan. From day one, they stepped in this building. Their work ethic, their passion, their drive to get better, and they are getting better right in front of our eyes. And they're all playing, and they're developing. And that's going to help us through the next 8 games here and into the future. Another thing is we have this player development program that we started here. And it's really the best I've seen. And it's been spearheaded by Dave Ziegler and Bryce Wasserman. And they work with all different departments in the building to help these players develop on the field, off the field. So those are the real positive things that I see here, despite the losing, which causes a lot of negativity. I understand that. I just want to take you into some of the roster decisions, a little bit of insight on some of the trades that we made. We are in constant evaluation mode here, with players, with staff. And that comes, with players, it might be talent, it might be scheme fit, it might be culture fit. The word culture gets thrown around there a lot. So what do you mean by that? Well, it's the habits that we want to have with our players to create a winning culture here. It's the team first mentality, it's the accountability piece, it's the attention to detail piece. It's their willingness to work and get better every day. So that's what we're looking for when we're evaluating these players. And I know the first trade we made with Jarvis Brownlee was I'm aware of it. It was controversial around here because he's a young player that was ascending, and you're evaluating the fit. And without getting into a lot of details, I like Jarvis, and I think he's going to be a really good player in this league. We don't have the culture right now sometimes to help guys develop right now. And, we thought at the time, just some of the habits weren't conducive to building the culture right now. And I know it's hard to understand because he was a young player, and I wish Jarvis nothing but the best. The Roger McCreary trade, Roger, loved Roger. Teammates loved him. You could tell they loved him. Roger's a good player. It's part of the strategy when you're looking at the roster and evaluating the market in terms of, he's in an expiring contract and what's it going to look like next year. And that's the piece when you draft and develop players too, that you have guys coming in here. It had nothing to do with, because I didn't draft Roger. It has nothing to do with that. We found there was some interest with Roger, and it happened to be the Rams, who had owned our 5th-round pick from a prior trade, and so we thought that was good value for us. We were at in the draft, we were missing that 5th-round pick, so we had a 4th-round pick, which was at the beginning of the 4th, and then we had a 6th-round pick, which was at the beginning of the 6th. So that's about an 80-spot move if the draft had happened that day. So we thought that was good value, really just getting that pick back, and that's the reason why we did it. Draymond Jones, loved Draymond. He was really coming on here the last 4 or 5 games, and I think that's why a lot of teams had called on him. We weren't looking to move on from Draymond right now, but we also have to think about the future of this program and where we're at. And, we had a chance to acquire a pick that from Baltimore that, could be a high pick in the 5th and potentially could turn into a 4th-round pick. So let's hope the Ravens go to the playoffs and Draymond has 2 more sacks and we can get a 4th-round pick out of it. That's what the conditions were there. And just really just the youth movement, too, of the roster I want to hit on. We have 11 players on the active rookies right now, 2 on IR with Femi and Mullings, and hopefully get them back here at some point. So that's 13 guys on the active that are rookies. Right now, that's 2nd in the league, I think, right now. I hope that's right, with New England for the most rookies on a roster. I know there's going to be questions about the head coaching search, which is, we're in the process of that, and I just don't think this is the time really to talk about that part of it. So with that, if there's any questions.
When you talk about the habits conducive with Jarvis, I know you probably don't want to get into the specifics of what those were, but can you talk us through what habits you want from players?
Well, I think I touched on just the accountability piece, attention to detail, the willingness to get better every day. And so I don't want to specifically, touch on that because Jarvis is a great kid, and I wish nothing but success for him.
When you say that there are some times that you can't teach that culture with the program you have now.
Yeah, that's hard to explain sometimes with the culture in the locker room. When you have a standard in the locker room at some point, when you're winning a lot of games, when you bring a player in, they know exactly what they need to do, or they know they won't be there very long. There's a standard there. So we're trying to create a standard. And sometimes that's hard to articulate to people and the fans, but when you're in a locker room, you feel it. And when you're around a winning team, you feel it. I certainly felt it in Kansas City. Every person that we brought in there, they knew right away, if Pat and Kelsey were out there practicing every day hard, I better be out there practicing every day hard. So we need to create that standard here, and we do have some pieces here. I want to highlight Jeff Simmons. Jeff has been tremendous. Jeff was a player that came in this league and they were winning, and he's gone through some losing seasons here right now. And I communicate with Jeff a lot, and Jeff is a big part of why we're going to turn this thing around here. He is. He's one of the better players in the league, and his leadership with these young guys has been tremendous.
Did you talk to Dallas about Jeff, considering what Dallas gave up for Williams?
I'm not going to get into who we talked. We talked to 31 other teams for the past 3 weeks. So I will not get into any particulars of any moves that we did not make. But I will say with Jeff, just because you asked about Jeff, and I'm not going to talk about any other players here, Jeff is invaluable to us right now, to where we want to go.
When you say building for the future, though, as you did with Draymond, does that not enter into the picture with Jeff as well as probably your most valuable asset, that could be traded?
Well, you have to weigh those options, and you say it's a business, but like when you weigh those options, you look at it and you say, what do we have here? And he's a pillar here in this organization for what you want, and he's one of the best players in the league in his position. And the way he works every day at practice, I don't know if I've seen a defensive lineman superstar like him, just empty the tank every day at practice. It's impressive. And when your best player does that and younger guys look to him, that's what you want. That's what I'm talking about being a standard.
Mike, in talking about building culture fit, obviously you drafted Cam #1 overall, and you feel like he brings the intangibles you're looking for.
Yes.
That can be a franchise quarterback. But what do you see from him so far? Because it looks like he has struggled probably more than most #1 overall picks should entering the league.
He looks like a rookie quarterback playing on, a team that had the #1 pick last year, and he is he's developing, and he's developing with a lot of other rookies too as well, right? So we have 2 rookie wide receivers out there playing, Chim and Ellick. We have Gunnar playing out there. So they are learning together, and they're only going to be better because of it. And I have full confidence that Cam, because of his work ethic, because of his drive, that he will fix things that he needs to fix, just like every quarterback in this league, though. And I have full confidence that he's going to get there.
You promoted McCoy to interim.
Yep.
Part of the rationale there was not to disrupt the defense with Denard, not to disrupt special teams with Bones.
Yep.
Those things have been disrupted by trade. Defense certainly has been disrupted by trade.
Yeah.
Those guys seem to have a little bit more fire than Mike, who's punting from inside opponents' territory. You're getting more conservative coaching from Mike than you got from Brian. What do you think of the job that he's given?
I think
so
Mike's
far?
doing a great job holding everything together here under the circumstances, Paul. Really, and Denard is a hell of a coach, and I have conversations with Denard all the time. And before we made these trades, it's not like we make these trades and don't have conversations. And he is he going to agree on all the trades? No, but I think at the end of the day he understands it. And he understands that he has a job to do, but you say you got a job to do, that's your responsibility to do the job. But his willingness to still do the job is why he's a good coach.
Wouldn't you like to see things be a little less conservative, given that you guys have nothing to lose in terms of the approach from the head coach?
Yeah, I mean, you still have to make smart decisions out there. He's the head coach, and he's going to make decisions that he feels best for the team. And when there's opportunities to be aggressive, we'll be aggressive. But Mike's done a tremendous job here under the circumstances here too, of being the head coach here.
You look at Jeffrey Simmons, like you mentioned him as a top player, and you look at what Denard has been able to do, and then you trade away Draymond Jones. What does it say what Denard has been able to do in the last few games without Simmons, and what's left of your outside linebackers group?
Yeah, no, he's done a tremendous job. He's a great coach. We had 6 sacks last week, and we have Arden coming back here, hopefully here after the bye. So having Arden back, and eventually we'll get Jeff here back. We'll see how he looks here after the bye. But tremendous job. The whole staff has really. Tony Oden, his willingness to work with younger corners and guys that we claimed off the waiver wire, because of losing guys from trades and injuries with Snead. So it's been difficult for them. But like I said, like they come in here every day, and their willingness to work and try to get these guys better has been impressive. Because like I said, I've been in other situations before where you're losing, the culture in the building's bad, but I don't feel that here. I don't.
Some other things you've seen, Mike, I guess from the draft class, and how unfortunate, I guess, that Femi had the injury he did. It kind of halted his progress. What are maybe some of the other highlights from the draft class?
Yeah, I mean, I think they're all contributing. Obviously, Cam's a starting quarterback in the league here that has some really good moments, really high-level throws. And once he puts everything together with some consistency, which I think he will. But he's been impressive. His leadership's been impressive. Like I told you, the whole group's been impressive in terms of leadership. Kevin, coming off the ACL, basically under a year, and then we got him back out, had a little setback, but he's starting to play and come on, and you see flashes of it. His speed, his athleticism, and then the three guys we took in the fourth with Alec and Chim and Gunnar have all contributed. And, DK, I think, leads the league in all-purpose yardage right now. The punt return he had the other week, you talk about a dependable player now. That's what he exemplifies. And Gunnar, you've seen in flashes. He's going to be, a really good player for us in this offense. And then, Jackson is on the active right now in a reserve role and just hasn't had a chance. And Mullings was doing some good things on teams before, he had the ankle injury. But, really happy to see their progress so far.
You talked about earning the trust back with the fan base. One thing that I think the fans don't trust is with the dynamic between you and Chad and kind of the opaqueness in terms of what your responsibility is and what Chad's responsibility is. And when it comes to trusting this team to get it fixed, Chad has been here for a lot of the recent mistakes that were made in some capacity or another. So what are the job responsibilities, and why should the fans trust you and Chad to get it right?
It's a good question, and it's a fair question. And with Chad, I can go back to when we were in Kansas City. There was a few of us that were on that staff there that ended up being 2-14. I think that 2012 year. It was myself, Ryan Poles, Brant Tillis. Ryan Poles is a GM now. It's Bears. I'm here. Brant Tillis is a VP of operations with the Carolina Panthers. So what I'm trying to say is that, even though there's, we were losing at the time, there's still really good people in the organization. I get the question. I do. And Chad is invaluable to me. Chad hired me, Amy hired me to really construct the roster. That's what they hired me for. And they empowered me to do that. And what Chad does is, he has knowledge in scouting. He's got knowledge in the salary cap, strategy. Chad is really smart. And Chad supports me with all the decisions that I make. And it's no different in every other organization. You can say the titles and who's above who. It's the same structure in every organization. You got the GM, you have your, VP of strategy cap, and then you get the head coach. And whatever title you want to give them, those are the three people that work together to make decisions. And there's no one person that, if he's got the 53, I'm going to go rogue and just make a pick. But they empowered me to make those decisions here, to draft players, to sign players, to construct the roster. So fair question. I get it, Jared. But just to give you a little insight on that.
How much input will you have in the selection of the new coach, working within that framework?
Yeah. Good question, Harry. We're in the process with it now, but, one of the things that me and Chad have talked about too is, the GM and the head coach work together every day. So I think it's imperative that we make this decision, who's the best leader of this organization coming forward. I know I don't want to touch on the head coaching topic, but I do want to mention this though. But, me and Chad have had conversations, and it's important that, it's a fit, not only fit for the organization. We want a leader here. I don't care if it's defense, offense, that they have a working relationship with the GM, myself. So, we'll come together. We'll make the best decision for that.
Where has Snead been since the injury, and would you expect him to play again this season?
Yeah, I just saw LJ yesterday. He's doing great. You know, he's rehabbing. To answer your question, I don't know yet. He's still going through the process of the rehab right now, but Jarris is in good spirits. So
Is it a re-aggravation of last year's injury?
it's similar. I don't know exactly what it's similar. So yeah, I don't want to go too much detail into it, the medical. But yeah.
There was a lot of people maybe that thought you guys might be more active leading up to the trade deadline as well.
Yeah.
I wonder how much did injuries maybe to some players play a part in maybe not making more deals?
No. You know, we look at everything and the value of it and who's valuable for the team right now. And there's some guys who are on expiring deals this year that still have 8 games here to evaluate, and they've done some good things. So yeah.
I guess maybe to follow, yeah, just to follow on that, I guess how much do you balance, as you said, building for the future, but you still want to have field a somewhat competitive team?
Sure, there's balance there. We've got 8 games left. And, you know, if we thought there was a value there, like I said, we talked to 31 other teams. I'm not going to get into every discussion we had. And, you know, a lot of teams have called us, obviously. You know, we weren't looking to acquire players at this point. It's more for draft capital for the future. But, yeah, that all comes into play.
You guys plan ahead, and so you know who is on an expiring contract. You know, with room to change your mind throughout the rest of the season, who you're probably planning on bringing back versus maybe not planning on bringing back, what you're going to offer who. When you reach a deadline like this and you have in mind who maybe you don't have in the plans right now, I think some fans look at that and say, well, why wouldn't you get something, anything now for a guy that's going to walk in 8 games for nothing? How does that factor into your decision making?
You have to weigh all those options, but you know a lot of the guys that are on expiring deals have done some good things here. So you know we'll continue to evaluate them and to see if you know they're a fit here for the future. So we still have 8 games, a lot of games left here to evaluate them.
You talked about when you took the job about how if you took a young quarterback, you had to have a plan for the young quarterback. And
Yeah.
you compared that to Kansas City. And we know the plan in Kansas City where Mahomes sat the bench. And what was the plan for Cam and how has that changed? Because I would assume that the plan wasn't to fire the coach 6 games
Sure.
into the draft.
That's fair. Yeah, what did Mike Tyson say? Everyone has a plan until you get punched in the face, right? But yeah, I mean, there's a plan for him, and the plan right now is for him to still develop, and he has been developing. And I give credit to Nick and to Bo and to Mike on his development. That's part of it, the development plan. Now, will the offense change next year? Maybe. But in terms of the fundamentals, the mechanics, understanding how to play the position, I think we have some really good coaches here to develop them.
With the amount of cap space you're going to have
Yeah.
next year, and with the thinness of the roster,
Sure.
how much are you and your department forecasting at this stage what you might be doing with that money, given who's scheduled to become available?
Yeah, I mean, we're starting free agent meetings here in the early December, but we've been watching the free agents and building a board similar to a draft board with free agents in the league and trying to figure out their market value and trying to figure out our needs at the end of the season. So all that goes into it. Yeah, so, I mean, those discussions are going on right now, Paul.
How much can you do there realistically, given what reaches market at the prime positions where you need help?
Yeah, I mean, we can do, you know, we have a lot of cap space. And like I said, you know, we're going to have to, that's why it's hard when you have the philosophy. You have to stay disciplined to it too, Paul. And we use free agency really you have to fill the roster and you have to be competitive at the same time. But, you know, in the future, we want to draft and develop these guys. But, you know, there will be opportunities if we see a player that deems that is going to help us and we're thin at the position, we're going to attack it.
So is there a way to do both of those things? Be a draft and develop team, not want to try to buy a roster, do the thing in free agency we see teams do and fail to do, but still have so much money you have to spend?
Yeah, I mean, there's a balance to that. right? There is a balance because you have to see where the locker room's at, how many young players you have on your roster at the time. In my, I guess, experience, and listen, there's all different ways to build a team. I'm not knocking anyone else on how they build their team. It's just our philosophy. It's built through the draft, and there's going to be opportunities to supplement players when you feel you have to. But you certainly want it to be, having your roster consist of more younger players that are drafted to really build the culture you want.
In terms of the roster, you talked about Jeff being a cornerstone, you talked about the rookies being building blocks. How many building blocks do you feel like you have on this roster currently? Is it 20, 15?
Those are the things we're going through right now. So you try to identify, at least, I think Cam is one. I think some of these rookies can be. I think Jeff is one. And I'm not going to go through every player on the roster, but you would try to identify maybe like 3, 4, 5 guys. And you saw that in the past with Kansas City. It's like the same 4 guys that have been there for that whole run there, right? So, yeah, I do think there's some cornerstone players here that can be part of this. Some of them are younger now and they have to develop, and we need to continue to add to that.